do they take control like when you take DMT?
Well, I'm going to give the optimistic answer, which is to say it's DMT. I mean, what DMT does is it generates this very fluid and dynamic state of the brain, of the cortex, this outer layer of the brain that constructs your world model. And some very recent neuroimaging data actually show that DMT makes the brain much more sensitive to being perturbed by external sensory or other types of input. So it becomes primed, if you like, to be commandeered, taken over in this way. So I'd like to think that they don't have access in the normal waking state, because that's kind of a horrifying thought, right? But in the presence of DMT, they gain access, or your brain is in a much more vulnerable or susceptible state to being commandeered by these intelligences. And that's clearly what happens. People describe this massive, overwhelming rush of information that floods their brain, complex imagery, mathematical imagery, blueprints, and just completely alien stuff that has no relationship to their normal waking experience. And I think that is kind of the hallmark of them basically saying, we have control now for the next 5 minutes or so. And then they kind of show you what they want to show you, which is sometimes a performance. They kind of say, look at this, look what we can do. And they will show these. They will often display these impossible, higher dimensional, beautiful objects that kind of morph in front of your eyes, or they will hold up screens with these impossibly complex imagery. They will perform beings like elves or harlequins or jokers and jesters, and they will say, look at this. This is impossible, and yet we're doing it. They're doing it with your brain. Your brain is like the stage that they are using for this performance. And then in other cases, it's more serious. There seems to be some kind of agenda. People often describe like they were waiting for me. They knew. They weren't surprised. I was very fucking surprised, but they weren't surprised at all. They had a place ready for me, and they slotted me in, and they started working, and they're scanning, and the lights flashing and beeping, and just they knew exactly what to do in the short time available. Yeah, it's
So this brings up a question of like discernment. Like if, I don't know, you talk about harlequin jesters and, tricksters and stuff. And, on the other hand, there's things with serious agendas for you. How do you go into a trip like this and be able to and fend for yourself and go in with a specific intention where you're not, the product being used, but you have a specific goal or intention, or I don't know, it can be very healing for a lot of people, for example. Maybe that's the sort of positive outcome version of this, or how do you sort of dictate that? And is it inherently very risky?
You don't dictate it. So if you try to dictate it, then you're in trouble.
Yes.
Because there's no way, you cannot dictate it. I mean, that's the thing.
You have to surrender.
You have to surrender. I mean, you can go in with intention. And people do. People will go in, they might suffer from, I don't know, chronic headaches or depression or something that they're seeking a solution to something. And they go in with that intention. And very often they will find that these beings will get to work on them, literally on their brain. And they will feel their brain being reprogrammed and rewired by these elf-like beings or insectoid beings. These are the kind of two of the most common types of being, and they will often achieve great relief from that. Their headaches stop happening, or they feel more positive about life, and feel like their depression has lifted. So that's certainly possible. It's not like it's you kind of have to accept that you get what you get. But at the end of the day, yes, you kind of do have to accept that you're not going to be able to control this thing. And if you try, that's, I think, when bad experiences happen. When you go in there with a sense of self-assured arrogance that, you know, we humans are the top of the intelligence tree, you know, and that DMT will obliterate any kind of this anthropocentric belief that humans are the center of reality and that we are the most intelligent thing and that we've got it all worked out.
It'll humble you real quick.
Oh, it'll humble you within seconds.
Yes. It gives you what you need, not what you want.
Right.
Often you come in,
Right.
like, you know, I've dabbled a little bit. I don't do much, but, and I did ayahuasca once. So I've never done DMT, but I've done the ayahuasca is DMT in some sense. It's a kind of gnarly version of it. I don't know. I feel like the failure mode for me would have been like the universe showing me that, you know, some sort of like ultimate Fibonacci sequence that, like, you know, because I'm, you know, kind of a truth seeker in that sense. And instead it was like, no, just walk and carry water. You know, your job is like you're way too grandiose about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. Like, your family is all that matters. And it was like, it was great because of that. But it was not what I wanted. You know, I wanted some, you know, ultimate secret or something.
Everybody wants the blueprints for the time machine.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And they say, why don't we get that? Why don't we get the equations for the grand unified theory?
Yes.
But I think humans, we have this very human-centered belief that we know what we need. And these beings, they have no interest in that. They know what's going on, and we haven't got a clue what's going on.
Yeah.
We don't know shit, really. And that's the most important message that we need to get, first of all, before we start getting the other messages. I think the first one that we need to take to heart is that, we haven't got a clue what's going on. We don't know shit.
Yeah.
That we're not even close. We don't even register on the scale of intelligences that you can encounter within the DMT space.
I would agree with that. But you are a human who has dared to create kind of an ontology around both psychedelics. And it's really awesome. And it dovetails with a lot of my instincts where you have this alien information theory. I want to start with that because I love that book. And it goes into like this idea that, you know, these beings could be in some sense sort of simulating our current reality, but it also talks about, you know, there are myths from, you know, jinn and Islam to angels and demons in Christianity or you know, Judaism, and these things sort of having full wholesale control over our realities. And then there's some sort of a bridge that takes place with DMT, but you even get into, you know, the information theory components of this and how they're maybe more pure information theoretic, these beings. And you talk about John Wheeler. And so, maybe just for the audience, I'd love for you to kind of go through that kind of whole ontology.
Yeah. I mean, the book Alien Information Theory, people read it and think that this is kind of what I believe. It's not what I believe. It's a work of art. It's a work of metaphysical speculation. I'm simply trying to show people that the world could well be and probably is something, or reality probably is something that we completely different to what is normally presented to us by the theoretical physicists and the mathematicians and the astronomers and the astrobiologists, et cetera, and that actually reality is probably, you know, as Terence McKenna used to say, you know, stranger than we can suppose.
Yes.
And
I think that was Arthur C. Clarke. But
it was JBS Haldane originally said that he used the word queerer than we suppose, but stranger than we suppose is probably better these days. But yeah, anyway, and I think he's right. I mean, 30 seconds after you inhale a lungful of DMT, it's quite obvious that reality is far, far stranger than you could possibly have supposed or anticipated. And the book was really to present one particular way of looking at reality. You know, maybe reality could be something like this. I don't think I got everything right, but I think the idea, which I think is broadly correct, or could well be broadly correct, is that this reality, our lower dimensional reality, our 3-dimensional plus 1 reality is really a thin slice within a much larger, higher dimensional structure. So we're kind of embedded within this high dimensional structure that we never normally have access to. And for reasons that we don't quite understand, DMT grants us temporary access to this high dimensional structure. And so the world you kind of unfold into is, I guess, is one way of describing it. Your brain kind of unfolds into this high dimensional structure. This is why people describe entering a world that is not just strange, but is literally impossible, in that it could not exist within our 3-dimensional world in which there are more dimensions, what appears to be a very higher dimensional space, a kind of reality that our 3-dimensional world could only exist within, but it could not exist within our reality, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah, I think, and at best they're little ports or bridges where they connect or something.
Right.
And you talk about, like, it's like Carl Sagan had this great clip where he's talking about Platonic solids, and he talks about a tesseract, and you would never see the tesseract, you'd see a shadow of the tesseract.
Right.
But there's a great book by Sir Edwin Abbott called Flatland. Where it's like a 2D people and how they'd interact with 3D creatures. And, you know, maybe there are ports or whatever whereby, you know, they can somehow connect to the 3D reality, but it's extremely limited. We're seeing sort of the tip of the iceberg. We're not seeing, you know, the iceberg itself.
Yeah, we are kind of trapped within that flatland. And, you know, as Carl Sagan said, in this world, we would only see the shadow of the tesseract. When you go into the DMT space, people do describe seeing tesseracts, and they will describe them. I saw something that was impossible. It was a 4-dimensional cube or a 5-dimensional cube, which is completely impossible for us to comprehend. We can only imagine it as a mathematical abstraction. There's no way for you to visualize or to see a 5-dimensional object in its true form. And yet when you smoke DMT, you enter these worlds that appear to be, you know, higher dimensional. And I think, yes, rather than the portal, well, it is kind of a portal, but I would say it's gating the flow of information so rather than only receiving information, let's say from this 2D flatland, if you're in the flatland, you start to receive information from the third dimension. And so the brain temporarily effectively becomes a higher dimensional object. The world that it's constructing is also higher dimensional. And so you're seeing more, you're literally seeing a greater expanse of reality than you can in the normal waking state.